Hey, everybody. I'm Rebecca from Thieving Otter Farm,
And I'm Leah with Southern Biophiliac Urban Farm.
and we are two Chix Coturnix bringing you the scoop
Not the poop.
on Coturnix Quail. So, we wanted to jump in real quick and do a little short, just a little blurb, our thoughts, giving you our 2 cents from two chicks. So, and tonight we want to talk about keeping quail with chickens. So this is a question that comes up all the time. Can you keep quail with chickens? Leah, have you ever kept quail with chickens?
I have brooded chicks, like chicken chicks with quail chicks, mostly bantam breeds.
Okay.
And I have kept some like grow out quail that were destined for the freezer, along with some younger chickens that were also destined for the freezer.
Got
But
it.
not any type of long term thing.
I myself have also tried it. I had some, like you, like some extra birds that I was, it's like, oh, I've got some extra males that I kind of want to keep, they were like my backup males, my spare males. Like, I don't want to take up space in my breeder pen. So I'm just going to toss them in here with the chickens. And I guess if it goes sideways, it's not the end of the world. So,
Right.
and I did find, so one of the pens, it did go sideways and I had to remove the quail. I had some birds in there that wanted to murderize them. It was bad.
Yeah, I could see them. I don't know. Sometimes chickens can be a little cannibalistic, so
Uh-huh.
they're
Yeah, yeah.
smaller, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anything smaller, weaker, something scurrying, they act different than a chicken. So yeah, they were targets. I mean, literally, the chickens were like throwing gang signs. It was bad. So, but I had another pen of I like the sweetest rooster on the planet. His name was Don Henley.
Oh,
But Don Henley and his girls were absolutely wonderful with the quail. And so I know that it can work, but I guess we should talk about like pros and cons of like what could go sideways or things that we need to think about if we want to try this little scenario. So,
definitely.
um, so I guess the first thing, we kind of touched on it would be like temperament.
Yes.
So yeah. And size. Like, you mentioned that you like brewed your chicks with bantams because they're a little smaller than, like I have some really big chickens here and I can
Or
just
what if it was one of the giant ones? I forget what they're called right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
The
Originally, I called
3 feet
them gentle
tall ones.
giants. Yeah.
Yes.
I could just see one of those giant roosters of mine hopping off of a perch onto a quail on
And
the ground and just
squish.
be like, squish. Or,
Almost like stepping on a cockroach.
yes, or heaven forbid, what if the rooster got randy one day and just was like grabbing up a quail to try to mate with it? That
Oh,
probably wouldn't end very well. So
not at all.
no, and those are like the gentlest birds I have. But just that size difference could potentially pose a problem. So I'm thinking that if you wanted to try quail with chickens, you might want to go with like silkies or like
Or
you have a
bantam
really small breed,
cochins.
right?
Yeah, we've got bantam cochins, and they could probably they're super docile too. So I could
Yeah.
see them potentially getting along.
Yep. So, and then of course, if you were to mix them like that, you'd probably want to supervise for a while and make sure that, they didn't start throwing gang signs and
Right.
rising. Um, I guess we should also think about like, okay, most chicken coops and enclosures aren't really set up for quail. So if you were going to set up a chicken coop for quail, what things would you do, Leah, to make it safer for them? Like, what would you consider?
So definitely quarter-inch hardware cloth
Hmm.
and hardware cloth barrier underneath too, because we know how quails live their dust baths.
Yep.
So, and we know how critters like to dig underneath in the pens. So
Uh-huh.
that's a definite thing, because quarter-inch will keep pretty much anything out.
Yep. Yeah, and it's, we often think we think about chickens and keeping like raccoons and big stuff out, but with quail, you have to think smaller. So yeah, you have to think about raccoons and big stuff as well because
Right.
everything likes poultry. But a lot of people don't think about rats or snakes because they're not
Yes.
really bothering your chickens usually. Like, yeah, they might give you a
The chickens
scare
will
when
usually attack them.
exactly, but yeah, your quail, no dinner. So,
Right.
um, not only that, but I've seen some wire used with chicken coops that would be like big enough spacing for like quail to just walk right through.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that would be something to consider. Like the pens that I used when I, tried my experiment with my extra boys, um, they actually have tin sides. So the tin is about 2 feet high. So that, that is going to keep the quail in for sure, keep predators out. And then I had hardware cloth up another 4 feet and then a full roof and a dig barrier. So nothing was going to get in it.
Right. It sounds like a little fortress.
Uh-huh. Um, I guess then too. Okay, so we've predator proofed them. We found the right chickens for them to go with. Now we have to think about like, okay, chickens are a whole lot bigger than quail, and
Hmm.
quail are really low to the ground. So I guess we'd have to think about like food and water. Like
Right.
how are they gonna, did you have a way that you were able to feed the quail and water the quail that they also weren't drowning in it?
Well, yeah, we have the 5 gallon buckets that we hook the water and feed nozzles to. And that would
Got
work.
it.
Yeah, I just had to make sure like they were low enough that the quail could get into it,
Yep.
but that the chickens could access too. But the chickens were never super big ones
That's true.
either.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, like a nipple water system, something like that would work just
Mhm.
fine. I was thinking about like how you have the drinkers with a pretty good size well in it for the chickens.
Right.
Something
Those
like
like they
that.
could swim.
Yeah, I could see a quail like, drowning cuz, they'll drown in like a speck of water.
Definitely.
They're so good at drowning.
Let's go swimming.
Yes. Okay, so another thing to consider is that quail don't really use nest boxes like chickens do.
No.
So, if you're wanting to raise quail with the purpose of collecting their eggs for something, like eating or hatching out, you kind of want to know how old those eggs are. Um, and quail just like it's an Easter egg hunt looking for
Yes.
quail eggs because they lay them wherever they feel like it. And then I can just see the chickens coming around and scratching shavings or whatever bedding you're using,
Burying them
bury them,
or
and then next,
stepping on them.
yeah, and the next thing you know, you're going into your run to look for eggs, and you're stepping on them and popping them, and yeah, that just doesn't work very well. What other considerations do we need to think about?
So we covered eggs. Well, we quail are kind of dirty,
This is true.
so you probably have lots of poopy feet.
Yeah, and with them running around on the floor, like chickens often like hop up on roosts and stuff like that. Yeah, they're probably going to get poop balls on their feet because yeah, they're not going to
And
roost
those
like
are a
chickens.
pain to get off.
They are. They are. And I guess, with them laying their eggs all over the place, if they're not buried, they're probably going to get poopy too, huh?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that's not very cool. And okay, so mentioning the roost bars, I really hope the quail aren't sleeping on the floor below the chickens under their roost. Because now you have poopy feet and poopy backs.
Yeah, that's just like when you're at the beach and the seagulls are going overhead and you're praying that they don't drop a bomb on you. Yeah.
Yes, because quail don't roost, so it's not like they're going to hop up on the roost bar next to the chickens. So, yeah, that could be potentially bad. Um,
And quail
yeah,
can't free range like chickens can.
that's true. Yeah, so if you normally open your door to your pen and let your chickens out during the day, good luck with that with quail because mine would be like, peace out, and just wander out in the
Oh
woods to
God.
get eaten.
Right?
You'd never see them again.
No. They
Ask me
just
how I
aren't
know.
smart enough to come
No.
home.
They just like I literally have had quail walk up to like I've had like some plastic owl decoys to try to, keep things away and they're just like, "Hi, are you my friend?"
Sounds like that.
Oh,
What are you? Or they start pecking at it.
yes. Yes. I just they're just so domesticated. I calling them dumb is not very nice. But they're just so domesticated. They don't know what a predator is anymore, and they definitely don't have any homing instinct to go back
Yeah.
to a cage.
No fear instincts either.
No, no. Okay, so other things to consider. Um,
What about parasites?
ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, you have internal parasites like worms and stuff, coccidia that they could be exposed to that they wouldn't be exposed to if they were in a cage.
Or the icky, creepy crawlies on the outside?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. That would not be good. And honestly, that was a consideration that I made like after like I look at my poultry on a regular basis and stuff, but all of my quail are kept indoors. And so they're not exposed to parasites.
Right.
And so I had all these boys that I had extra shoved in with my chickens. And then I'm like, ooh, do I really want to bring them in and risk exposing my indoor quail that are nice and
Right.
pristine to potential
No way.
parasites? And so I didn't. No, it was a fun little experiment, but I didn't do it. Um, and then, there's also diseases that chickens can carry that could potentially expose your quail.
Right.
Um, or, that your quail could be exposed to. So yeah, those are things to think about. And I imagine that quail being little ground birds running around, they might get kind of stressed out hanging out with big chickens. Even,
Yeah, chickens are way more rowdy, and
yeah.
quail are usually, they're just like quiet and content on their own.
Yeah. So, and again, when you have stress, it decreases laying and stuff like that. So, um, I think that like if somebody wanted to try it and they were just had some extras, or maybe we're growing out some males to put in the freezer or something like that, it'd probably be okay. But I don't know that you'd want to do it as a setup for like breeding or eating eggs.
Yeah, I don't think long term it would be the best thing to do.
Probably not. But we want to hear our viewers' input. Like, have
Yeah,
you tried
if
it?
you've made it work,
Yeah.
let's do
Like
it.
what things did you do to make it work? Or also you could tell us, if it didn't work
Yeah,
and why. We love to learn. We love to educate. So we want to hear your stories. So be sure to comment with if it worked, if it didn't, and how did you make it work? So I think that's all that we have, unless you have anything else to add, Leah.
I think we covered everything.
I think so too. So, everybody, thank you for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.